and she was able to get up off her feet and go and create these organizations and save all these other kids. And that gives me the fortitude of like, there's nothing I can't accomplish with faith. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of FYI Podcast. Today we have a extra special episode. Okay, we're going to talk about season 2, but before we get into talking about season 2, we're going to recap. We're going to go down memory lane. We're going to talk about some of the most inspiring episodes, some of the most standout moments on season 1. But before we get into that, I want to go around the table and kind of introduce the team behind FYI, who's been in charge of getting it off the ground and giving us the success that we've had.
I mean, this is great. We finally we actually haven't met face to face yet.
Not yet.
This is it today. But I'm Matthew. I help with YouTube, getting YouTube.
I'm Jack. I'm one of the producers / managers of the podcast. Kind of have my hands everywhere.
I'm Marianne, Bautista Direct Marketing, and I'm kind of sales and marketing.
I'm Norma. I'm a producer on the podcast.
I'm Jill Van Balen. I am another producer on the podcast, but I'm also one of the creators who came up with the idea, and I worked with Polly and Jeff Burham to create something very special.
So we got something special. And I don't want to step on your line, Jill, but I want to make sure that we talk about how this podcast got started. I mean, this is very unusual. I mean, you guys are the masterminds.
Yeah, Jill, I'll let you start with that.
So I met Polly about 6 years ago. My organization was doing highlights on residents, and Polly lives in one of our communities. So we went out and we did an interview on him, got to know him a little bit about his history. Fast forward probably to 2 years ago, and Polly had just directed his very first movie. And so we went back out to introduce ourselves and to find out what he was doing. And then from there, we brought him out to Salt Lake City to meet our board of directors. From there, we thought, you know what, this is someone really special. He's someone who lives in our communities. We really want to help him do something really great with his life. How can we do that? And we kind of came up with this idea.
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty remarkable that, you know, a place that offers housing, suddenly now you're on a podcast inspiring other people. So tell us about, like, how did this get started for you? I mean, did you really think that you would be having a podcast?
No, not at all. No, you're right. It's incredible. I mean, I always tell people for the first 6 months, every time Joe would call me, I was like, that's it. I'd pinch myself like it's over because I've been enjoying doing this so much. No, not at all. When I met with Jill, the first time I met with her was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. They did kind of a write-up on me because I was a veteran living in the housing.
Yeah.
And I coincidentally, I was rehearsing a play that I wrote, which is now the movie that Jill's talking about that I wrote and directed. But when they first came to me and we started brainstorming, podcast had no idea it'd be a podcast. I think we were talking about maybe a film, maybe writing something episodic. We're just trying to figure out what could work to also inspire residents in the world. And then we kind of came up with doing this podcast. So no, I didn't have a game plan to do it.
And you have interviewed so many different people with different stories, all trying to find inspiration in their lives. And I mean, we were just talking earlier. I mean, some of these stories are heart-wrenching stories, and some of them are very inspirational too. But tell us, memories that you have going through this season.
Yeah, again, doing it, that's what's so cool about doing it, right? As an artist, it's you're still in the creative realm and you get to meet people. And what I've been learning is we're not all so different, We all deal with tragedy and triumph. Some of the standouts for me were definitely Erin Runnion.
I dissolved, just fell right out of my chair into a heap on the ground. As I fell, I remember just crying out, why do they have to kill them?
That episode was really difficult to, I have personally never interviewed anybody, let alone interviewed somebody whose daughter has been murdered. And it was really difficult. I think I cried multiple times through the interview, and I don't cry often. It's hard to sit by somebody and look them in the eye when they're revealing this kind of tragedy. But again, what I got from her was this, as much tragedy she went through, was this incredible amount of inspiration to move on and to do something with that tragedy. And that's what I got out of the episode was basically no matter what you're faced with, it's what happens after, right? We're only as good as the day after, right? So people talk about 9/11, this horrendous day that was very impactful in my life as a veteran. But it was September 12th that made the difference. It's when the country really came together and the patriotism. So I'm just kind of putting those two together. It's like she went through this horrific thing, but it was what she got called to do after. And that's to create these organizations. And the Amber Alert was created because of her daughter. So it was, that stands out to me.
I mean, so many moments. I know it's not possible to even mention them all, and you probably don't want to not mention many of them, but there's so many great ones. Lessons that you've learned through this, right? I mean, because these are lessons. These are life's lessons.
Well, as an interviewer, I learned to stay present in the conversation, eye contact, actually listen. As a trained actor, that's a big thing, is listening and responding. It's something we train over and over. So it's been a good practice of that. Not sitting, listening to somebody share a story, waiting to respond. It's actually taking in what they're saying because you need to know how to respond to what they're actually experiencing. So that's been an interesting skill set or that I've been getting better at. Some of the other things I learned is people go through. Dakota Meyer said on his interview,
everybody's had the worst day of their life. And the worst day of their life is no more significant than the worst day of my life. And it's like, really, that doesn't matter. It's all that we've all know what the worst day's like. And what are we going to do with that now?
Yeah. When I interviewed him, it was important because I'm sitting there as a veteran. He's a veteran. What he went through seems so overwhelming. His service to the country seems so much more heroic than my service to the country. And I really felt insecure sitting with him. Like, I was aboard a ship in the Navy, he was like in combat, saving lives. So what I'm leading to is he said something in that interview. He looked at me and said, bro, your experience is no different or less than mine. And he said, always remember in life, somebody's experience may seem little to you, but to them, it may be the most overwhelming thing. That changed me. When I see people dealing with anxiety issues, depression issues, I used to very much think like, I come from a generation that didn't understand that stuff. And I would think, come on, toughen up, man. Like, everybody has it rough. Your experience wasn't so bad. But what I never thought of is, there's that person out there that commits suicide, right? You have no idea what they've been going through. Maybe, not getting this job was so important to them that it was worth just ending it. Where me, I might not take that job that serious. So what I'm trying to say is I learned that everybody's obstacles are just as big as the next one. So if we think that way, we could put a little more compassion out there for each other. The world might be just a little better place.
Well, I know you shared you've recently gone through some loss yourself, right? And some of these lessons and some of these stories have really kind of morphed over into your real life and inspired you.
Yeah, actually, yes. I lost my mother recently, and to the day a month before losing my mother, I lost my dog, which by far is my best friend. And when my mom was dying, I was there the last 3 days. I was supposed to be in Puerto Rico actually shooting a FYI podcast. And Jill, we were talking and I just was really hesitant. But I'm such a workaholic. I want to get the shot. I want to get the content. And everybody was very supportive about Paul. If you don't feel right, we didn't know my mom was passed. She was in hospice, but I had this gut feeling. I'm a spiritual guy, so I prayed on it. I decided not to get on that plane and stay with my mom, rightfully so. And thank goodness I did. She died that weekend while everybody was in Puerto Rico. But when she was dying, I was able to be with her those 3 days. I mean, me and her husband picking her up, putting her on the bed. I mean, the cancer had really eaten her up at the end. And I kept thinking of an episode that we did with Carla Elizondo.
So the whole point is, if you're going through something, be the buffalo. Just go straight in through the storm because it's coming anyway. You can't outrun it. Don't be the cattle, be the buffalo.
Mm-hmm. And Carla said there's the buffalo the buffalo story, the buffalo in the storm, and that cows. You've probably heard this, everybody out there, but if not, it was my first time ever hearing this, that cows run away from the storm and the storm just stays above them. So they constantly stay in the rain. Where buffalo, they face the storm and charge through it, and they get out of the storm quicker. And I was consumed with all this pain and grief and confusion. I kept thinking of that. Kept thinking like, bro, just push through. Hold her. Be with her. Don't run from this. Don't go outside to take a breath. Hold her. And I was able to be there till her last breath. Also, I wanted to throw one more thing on that. I kept thinking to bring it back to Erin again. What Erin went through with her daughter, that was another thing. Like almost anything I face right now, Erin out there, I think of you because I go, this woman suffered. What could be more painful? Even though all of our pain is relevant and me losing my mom and my dog is relevant, but she lost her 3-year-old daughter, like, to such a horrific murder. And I'm like, and she was able to get up off her feet and go and create these organizations and save all these other kids. And that gives me the fortitude of like, there's nothing I can't accomplish with faith. So that was an important lesson.
And something beautiful came out of something so tragic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I would love to bring the team into this conversation because first off, I wonder, how do you find these amazing guests? I mean, I think everybody's pitching in, right? And we've got different stories, but I mean, it's a variety of guests too, right?
Most of them are Paulie's close friends that he's met along the road, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. For season 1, it basically, we were in a position, pretty much all of them were people in my network that I had knew or I'd come across, or some were like friends of close friends. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was just, I think that's what's amazing about FYI. I mean, we kind of talked about that when we created it, was we could do a podcast and bring on just celebrities or sports stars or talk about politics and talk about things that are like really clickbaity and get people to watch and offensive stuff or controversial stuff. But really, that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to find everyday people and show that everyday people. I always have this thought, like when I'm sitting around, I look at, like, say I go to the 99-cent store or to Ralph's. There's somebody working at that 99-cent store, and that's the best job they have. And that doesn't mean they're less than me or more because I directed a A-list actor in a movie. This person, I don't know the circumstances of everybody's life, but that person that's ringing up my stuff in this Dollar Tree probably has a story of triumph and tragedy. And we thought, what a better platform than to bring these people on. And I'll tell you this, almost every guest that comes on, unless they're like an actor or something, but every guest, I've had plumbers, I've had like chefs, they're like, my story's not interesting. And I'm like, no. Let's just get on the thing and talk. And by the end, they're crying. And they're like, I never looked at my life that way. They don't even know what they've overcome until they come on and talk. So I thought that's
I mean, you're a passionate guy and you bring that out of people. So that's really amazing. And the great thing about FYI is there's really no agenda other than just really inspiring you, right? I mean, you're not selling anything. It's just pure love that you're putting out there. And it's just really so amazing. Let's talk about the whole behind the scenes thing though, because there's a lot that goes into this. It's not, just Paul sitting there. We've got Jack here.
Yes.
Yes. And, I mean, what's inspired you, Jack?
I've seen all touch points of the podcast, from pre-production to actually producing the episode to the post-production, right? I work with all of you guys. And sometimes I get a little overwhelmed with the amount of inspirational content that like Paulie supplies, with this guest. And it's a new story every week. But I've been able to like kind of see past what most people think like these cliches are, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not inspiring. Like they're just saying some words, but it's like Paulie said, these raw stories of these people experience and overcoming obstacles. Like that's one of the main themes that I see on this podcast is Paulie explores how these people have overcome these obstacles and made something out of it. And I mean, in my life, like I've lived a pretty blessed life. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm very grateful. But there's always something you can source some inspiration from to be a better person. And so I'm so grateful to be able to work on this project with all these great people because I've been able to do just that. So big thanks to you guys for sure.
Thanks to you, man.
And who among us doesn't need inspiration, right? I mean, this world is getting harder and harder and harder.
Yeah.
And here we've got people that are really willing to put their lives out there, which is so amazing. And I mean, thanks to National Corps for really seeing through beyond just providing housing, but like you guys invest in your tenants. Is that the right word? You know,
We call them residents.
Your residents.
We do not call
All
them
right, my
tenants.
bad. Somehow I knew that was off.
That's okay.
Your residents.
I am a resident. Thank you very much.
Put them on the screen. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of stories like that, though.
Yeah, we've done a couple of things throughout the years. We did a thing about a couple of years ago called Corps Got Talent, a lot like, America's Got Talent, where we brought our residents together and had them entertain us. But the thing that I really love about the show and highlighting our residents is you understand that everybody has a story. Everybody has moments in their life where they've gone either left or right and they made an absolute decision to go that way. And I think through this, and one of the things I love about the show is even if they're famous and they're recognizable names, we're not talking about the movie or the TV show that they're in. We're talking about things that have impacted their lives, that have changed the course of the direction that they're going, that they're sharing to Polly in a way that you don't see on any other show but this one.
How about big surprises? There's got to have been some surprises doing this. I know just actually recording this, that was a surprise, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the talent and the guests that you've had, what's surprised you?
Do you ever worry that you wouldn't have enough guests on the show?
Yeah, I always worry about that. I'm like, wait, how where are we going to find people? I wanted to say before I jump into what surprised me, just one quick statement. I also think the show is very important because I grew up in a time where when I was raised, it was still okay to be a working class person and you could still have pride in making a living. There was a thing called the American dream at one time in this country where people took pride. It's just like making a living, and you may not be Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, but that was okay at one time. I feel like today we live in a time that everybody wants to be a YouTube sensation and everybody wants to be a big influencer and make a lot of money, with less work. And there's nothing wrong with that either. And that's what I like about FYI is we want to showcase the barber, the Lloyd out there, the Marine, grew up in South Central, that learned a trade in the Marine Corps and came out and is savvy enough to be an entrepreneur and has a very successful barber shop. I don't know if Lloyd has like ambitions to be a billionaire or if he's just trying to provide and he's a homeowner, and it's, this is okay still to strive to do that. And the Mark, the plumber, who opened the business, he worked for Mike Diamond and was a plumber getting paid by the hour. And now he went on to use those skills and start a company and now run, 50 employees, and he's doing great. But that wasn't what got him into plumbing. He just needed a job and he learned a trade. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there. I think it's important that we remember that it's okay to just work and not everything has to be this big. I'm going to be a big famous actor or LeBron James. So
everyone's got a story.
Everybody's got a story, and your
and
story's
some of, honestly,
important.
The best stories have not been the actors,
Well, and here's the thing. Even the actors, Gabrielle Walsh, had an amazing story.
Always understanding that, within this journey in life, I am here for service. It's not just about booking the jobs. Everything is I want to be of service to people.
Gabby's story is so powerful, but her story is just as relevant. We don't even talk about the show she's on or Jana Lee Ortiz. My questions were, what have you been to? She lost her father to cancer. And then 3 months later, her daughter's father was murdered in Chicago, shot. And now she's raising a kid on her own. And it doesn't matter that today she's famous on a TV show. It was the journey to get there. And I think the journey was just her going through the grief and going through the storm and also pursuing something she loved.
And a lot of these people, we as actors, we don't get to know that part of them, right?
Right. What Jill said.
We don't just know that.
Right. We just hear the shows they're on. And that's why our podcast is different. When Dakota Meyer was on, I didn't even talk about the incident that got him the Medal of Honor. I really didn't. Even though when he did the bigger, Joe Rogan and all that, people want to hear the grim details. What I talked with Dakota about was, what was his inspiration to want to become a Marine, and how did he excel? What gets him out of bed to go the extra mile, to do that one more push-up than anybody else? That's the stuff we need to know. It's not, you went into battle and you pulled out a lot of people, and that, like he even says, that moment is important, but it was the years that led up to being prepared for that moment. So that's important. Great things don't just happen to us. Jill and Jeff came to me. It wasn't just because I lived in their building, right? I have to take some ownership, and I've been doing the work for years and running a theater company, and it led to now. So that's important for people to know. It's like you still got to do the work. Like there's no get out of life free card. So what we want to provide is content to give you a blueprint. Oh, you want to be a barber? This is how Lloyd did it. You want to be a plumber? This is how he did it. You want to be an actress? This is how she did it. But there's a blueprint now through these interviews, and maybe you could relate with somebody in it and then push through.
So we've got season 1 under our belt right now.
Yes.
We got season 2 coming up. What's exciting you about season 2?
Production value. I think we're definitely going to step our game up. Production value. The team's coming together, and we've learned a lot. I'm learning a lot as a host of how to give better interviews and get more out of the interviews.
Home base. We'll
A
have our
home
own.
base. We actually have our own studio. Season 1 was all on the road. We were shooting stuff, in different states, but we're gonna have our own studio now. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
And what's new for Paul Tully?
Oh, it's new for me. So I committed to an Ironman with Dakota Meyer on the podcast. I spent a few months kind of breaking habits, and officially starting last week, I've hired Dakota Meyer's trainer, and I'm with a great team, NVDM. They're based out of Texas. They're a professional triathlete company, and they train great pros. So full transformation, body, mind, spirit. I think spirit, I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty connected with my faith and praying. My mind, I'm getting in a good place. I've had some tragedy, so I'm getting there. And now body's left, so I'm eating right. I'm meal prepping. I'm working out intense every day. So I think we'll see a whole body transformation for me, and we'll see. It all happens season 2.
If you had to give a final remark, a final parting comment, of what the season has meant to you, what would that be?
Find out who you are, what you really want to do, and know that anything's possible. If a guy like me could do the transformation you're going to witness in season 2, I hope that inspires other people who deal with food addictions and, other addictions, self-doubt, self-hate, depression. If I could push through, you could push through, just like all of the guests that have been on season 1. I encourage you to go out, watch some of the episodes. If they catch your attention, keep watching them. If they don't, go on to the next one. But I guarantee in one of our episodes from season 1, you're going to find some inspiration that might be able to just help you. That's at least what we're hoping. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for nothing. We just hope that we could help you through other people's stories. So
thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
You should never stress about the problems you be facing. Everybody in the mud on the struggle trying to make it. Look into the mirror and you see the motivation. Then you step into the world and you find your inspiration. I'm finding inspiration, and once I get a hold of it, I'll never get complacent. Look into the mirror and you see the motivation. Then you step into the world and you find your inspiration.